My presentation today is going to be on a manga I chose during week 2 of this month called Butterfly of a Distant Day. It has romance, which I love, and it's got a really touching story. I feel it's relatable and everything. So I hope that after my presentation, you might be intrigued enough to go and read it for yourselves. Let's get started.
The creative team behind Butterfly the Distant Day was author and artist Toko Miyagi, who has both written and illustrated a number of standalone manga and manga series over the years. Some of the genres he writes in are shonen ai, or boy love as it's also known. Some also include shoujo romance with supernatural, slice of life, and school life themes. Butterfly of a Distant Day by Toko Miyagi was published by the digital manga publisher company, which has published a wide variety of different genres over the years, including shonen ai, shoujo manga, romance, fantasy, and so on. Butterfly of a Distant Day has 212 pages. The one I'm discussing today is the boy love romance centering around a gifted pianist, Sayaki, who is working to help his young cousin, Ria, Riaja, Ria, a talented violinist, to become a successful musician. However, when a man from Satsuki's past suddenly appears, we see Satsuki begin to unravel. Act 1 of Satsuki's story moves a little faster in the beginning because we have where we're hooked. We see Satsuki and his cousin on their way to where they're going to be doing this concert. Where years prior, when Satsuki was younger, he was there putting on a concert of his own, learning his trade, which is being a pianist. So we see them on the road to this cottage where he had stayed previously. The inciting incident occurs on page 34 when Irving, this guy from Satsuki's past, who they have a very sordid past, ends up showing up unexpectedly and accidentally, at first, mistakes Satsuki's cousin as a young Satsuki. But right away, we see the dynamic between Irving and Satsuki is very tense and very uncomfortable. The end of Act 1 happens on page 60, where we kind of see Satsuki kind of throwing himself to the wolves being Irving, so that Irving won't mess with his cousin, because Satsuki has very strong feelings about Irving due to their past, where he doesn't trust Irving not to put the moves on his cousin, so to speak. So that happens pretty steadily throughout the first act. Act 2 starts off on page 61, where we also start off chapter 2 pretty much, which is more of a flashback chapter, if you will, for the majority of it, because it shows how Satsuki and Irving met, how their relationship developed, and exactly how their feelings and actions kind of messed up their relationship during the time they were together. By page 134, the third act of the manga is in full swing, because by this point we've seen different aspects of their past, from when they first met to when they were in college together, how they've acted around each other, how Satsuki had girlfriends and stuff, and then when, like, it never lasted, so he'd break up with them and stuff. So we've seen different aspects up until this point where, whether it's past or present, Satsuki and Irving have always been at like different areas in their relationship. Like they've never been on the same page. One thinks it's this way when it's real, and when the other thinks it's that way, when in fact they both want the same thing, but they just never. It ended up very making such a mess out of everything that it all kind of ended up falling apart. It ended making their relationship kind of crumble. When if they had just talked it out, their relationship wouldn't have like developed the way it had. So by page 134, we see that the past is starting to come up since they've been spending more and more time together in the present. We see Satsuki bring up Irving's ex. We see Irving bring up Satsuki's ex-girlfriends and everything, and it just starts to grow. The what's it called? The heat and the anger and the resentment and stuff and the confusion and the pain all starts to just boil up to the surface once again. In this manga, we see that Satsuki is the main character. We see that his goal is to get his cousin into the concert that he himself has done in the past, because that helps with the networking of other musicians and of composers and of more people in the industry. It also helps him get his work out there. That's Satsuki's main goal. And then with the appearance of Irving, that does kind of get thrown into a bit of a whack, because Satsuki's mind ends up reeling a little bit because he hasn't seen Irving in quite a while, and their relationship didn't end on the best of terms. So, as we go into Act 2, it's clear that though Irving is an obstacle for Satsuki to help get his goal of getting his cousin into the concert and getting his cousin to the professional level he wants, Satsuki still doesn't let that deter him. He continues. I think Irving's character arc is more intense for the story than Satsuki's is. The reason I say that is because on Irving's part, he's the more closed off of the characters. Thus, when we see changes in him, it makes the scene so much more powerful, and it really conveys the emotion and intensity of what the character is feeling. So at the beginning, we see him as he reunites with Satsuki. He's very he hides his emotions really well. It looks like nothing's affecting him. Then towards the middle, when like old emotions are flaring up and everything, and he's been with Satsuki a couple times now, and Atsuki's demeanor, his can't give two figs attitude, gets the best of Irving. He acts out, he lashes out. So we see that type of him, we see him lose control. And then towards the end, once they've admitted their feelings to one another and stuff, we see that Irving. I found that while reading this manga, the uses of the transition from past to present, as well as McCloud's ideas of transition was really well executed. I found that by using the caption boxes the way the author did, it was able to create a smooth transition from past to present and back, as seen in the 2 pages below. The present page is page 60, and the past page is page 61. Now, I found that by the captions in both corners, you can easily slide from one place to the next without getting confused or having trouble following how the story went from past to present and present to past. In regards to McLeod's ideas of transition, I found that the most that this manga seemed to utilize was the moment to moment transition aspects throughout the panels and throughout the pages, and the action to action. Because I feel like with manga there isn't many needs for aspect to aspect or sequential. I can't say that word, I'm sorry. But I feel like the moment to moment and action to action fit perfectly in regards to this manga because it is very linear. There's not many jumping around or anything like that. It's very bump, bump, bump. Like here, here, and here. Like we see everything coming out and just it's like a movie that's just being played out before us without any jump cuts or whatever. This manga does not utilize the page as a mini comic type aspect. Instead, you definitely need to read several pages at least because the story is continuous, the panels are continuous, so the story does flow from one page to the next instead of having little mini comics per page or what have you. And it works really well the way it is. I think having a mini page comic would take away from the overall story. In regards to the directional flow and the movement of the art and the words, I'd have to say that it fits really well. Like, I've read a lot of manga, so I'm used to how they're right from left and stuff. But the way the artwork works with the words in this manga works so well that it's really simple to follow along and it's really clear cut, in my opinion. I would recommend this to my classmates if they enjoy romance and, yes, are interested or okay with reading LGBTQ plus manga, because this is a boy love story. So there is same sex relationships and stuff. There is also mature themes such as actual sexual scenes. So if they would be interested in that, then I would recommend it to my classmates because it is a good read. The story is really well done and the characters have depth to them that not a lot of books can capture so well. But combined with the well done artwork, it really works. I'd have to say I'd recommend it to my friends as well for the same, as long as they're interested in the same things as I stated before. I think it's a really good read and I would recommend it to them as well. My only observations is that it's a good read. Being it is a standalone story, I'm a bit disappointed I don't get to see more of their relationship develop after they've finally reconciled and everything. But the way it's set up and you seeing how they met and everything does make the manga very interesting to read. A fun fact that I did find out was the first several pages regarding Satsuki's cousin is kind of rollover from apparently Satsuki's cousin's series with his actual boyfriend. This is a standalone book, but it is a prequel to a series that Tomo that the author did previously, which I do have